And you'd stop many of these horrible fires that are costing billions and billions of dollars by the...
LA, San Diego, both major port cities.
Does it frustrate anybody else that we're not allowed to talk about what's really going on in our...
Welcome back, guys. Appreciate you taking the time to come back to the channel. I want to say one thing. This last clip, no joke, is bananas. You're gonna want to see this one. I'm telling you, this will blow your mind. It's incredible. And I actually genuinely believe it. Stick around, find out.
And you have so much water, and all those fields that are right now barren, the farmers would have all the water they needed, and you could revert water up into the hills where you have all the dead forests, where the forests are so brittle, because no place is like California. I go to Austria. The head of Austria tells me, you know, we have trees that are much more flammable than what you have in California. We never have forest fires because they maintain their forests. And you have all that water that could be used as water, what they call water flow, where the where the land would be damp. And you'd stop many of these horrible fires that are costing billions and billions of dollars by the federal government, etc. So one thing I'm going to do for California, vote for me, California. I'm going to give you safety. I'm going to give you a great border. And I'm going to give you more water than almost anybody has. And the farmers up north are going to be able to use 100% of their land, not 1% of their land.
Listen to me when I tell you, there's no one on planet Earth that could tell me that that wasn't a setup. That was something dodgy not going on. Probably something to do with Trump's inauguration, or I don't know, I'm not into politics. Probably there's something happening, they're scrambling for something, and it's just going, it's since the North Carolina thing, or maybe even as far back as the port and the bridge, what everyone's forgot about, with the ship crashing into it, messed up the ports. Or am I reaching? I don't know, but either way, there's something very, 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 very evil is at play in California, and it's sad to see.
People got suitcases, okay? That's the line right now for an electric car parking. There's already no water inside of the grocery store, literally none. LA, San Diego, both major port cities. The biggest ports on the West Coast, San Diego, LA, they're both catching on fire. Hollywood Hills now has a massive moving fire. It's all of the firefighters from California, most of them have moved to LA to try and support Los Angeles. And I mean, it sounds like a big chess game here that's going to get everyone fucked. Now, here's the problem. Power grid goes down. It's already gone down in many areas. No electricity, no gas, no food, no water, no sewage. Pentagon predicts that within 30 days of a power outage, 90-something% of the population is dead. So get the fuck out of LA, send this to your friends. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just saying things are getting weird. And look, it's evident. I'm literally at the grocery store. It's late as fuck. It's packed. It's always empty. It's fucking packed right now. That's the fucking car line, electric car line. Look, it goes on and on and on and on, and those are all electric car things. It keeps going. Something is fucking weird. It's happening. Look, my reputation's on the line. I am a very, very successful guy. My reputation's on the line. I wouldn't be saying this shit if I wasn't worried about it and if I didn't care about you. But I think that I should use my platform to share my knowledge. If you're in LA, get on a fucking flight, get the fuck out, try and do something, because if shit hits the fan, it's gonna be too late. It's gonna be too late. You gotta act before everyone else acts, not after. What a scam. They just talked to the senator of California, and here's the update. They're talking about something completely irrelevant. Oregon sent 60 fire trucks, only for them to get stopped in San Francisco for, guess what? Emissions testing, which they're probably not going to pass. The whole state's on fire, and they're finding a reason to not allow 60 more fire trucks to come help us out. That sounds like they want us to burn. I am in shock. I'm pissed. I don't know what to do. I'm actually going to have to evacuate. Like, you guys don't understand. Where this fire is, my house is like right there. Like, I'm right here.
I just thought I'd chuck part 2 in because I wanted to know a bit more what happened after that short video he put on. So it's just a little bit more there, and hopefully it keeps us updated as well as other people. I've seen some good stuff come out of LA. I've seen that guy giving the guy who needed his asthma medicine for his kid, give him a lift. He was in the middle of filming something, and then he gave him a lift. And even people trying to find negative comments then were saying, why was you filming him? This interaction, it wasn't, he was actually already filming. And the guy asked for help, so he just kept rolling. And he gave him a lift, dropped him off, and hopefully the guy got his medicine. So the good things coming out of it, it shows humanity has got a nice side and people can stick together. They're not going to win. They won't win. They can't divide everybody. People are going to wake up eventually.
They got your ass. California wildfire's arson suspect has been arrested by LAPD after being caught by neighbors lighting bushes on fire amid disaster. Apparently, someone called 911 to report a male attempting to set a fire at the 21700 block of Ibarra Road at around 4:30 p.m. The suspect was arrested and taken to Topanga Station. Now, because of that arrest, the Kenneth fire is now being investigated as an arson case. The Kenneth fire is one of 5 wildfires ravaging LA County, threatening homes near Calabasas and Hidden Hills. Investigators believe the fire may have been purposely set, and it was citizens who helped detain the suspect. According to the district attorney, the penalty for the suspected arsonist could be as high as homicide and could result in life in prison. At the time that I'm reading this article, more than 34,000 acres have been burned in total as wildfires continue to rage across the Los Angeles area. As the multiple wildfires rage on, at least 20 people have been arrested on looting charges, and 400 National Guard members have been deployed for traffic control and infrastructure protection. Officials have said almost 180,000 people are under evacuation orders because of all the fires, and thousands have been displaced. Y'all, I knew something was off about these fires, especially since they're happening too early in the season. Now, granted, climate change is a thing, but I had a suspicion that those fires, at least some of them, were man-made, and lo and behold, it looks like I might be right.
Is he a patsy? Was he setting fires just to get involved? Like, was he the guy who set the fires? I know my answer. I don't think he was. I've seen a video where it says this aerial shots of like 3 fires starting at exactly the same time, like a satellite image or something. I've got the video, but it's just a 2-second clip. As far as him, this guy, I think he could potentially just been having fun, trying to get involved, trying to be doing something stupid, trying to get a bit of 15 minutes of fame because it's worldwide. I don't think he's the main guy who started it. Nowhere. And then all that.
So, California called for help. They said to some of their neighboring states, like Nevada and Idaho and Oregon and Washington, send us some fire rigs, send us some firefighters. We've got to get these fires out. Guess what happened? Did all those fire rigs and personnel go straight to the fire lines? No, they did not. They went to Sacramento. And why? Because California says if you send us your fire rig, it must first go to Sacramento for an inspection by Cal Fire. And only if it passes the inspection, and apparently it's taking some time, some of the crews have been held up, only then does it go to Pacific Palisades and start fighting those fires in Los Angeles. That's how crazy it is. And to make it even worse, on the way out of the state, after all those fire crews and rigs are done, they have to stop in Sacramento for a second inspection on their way out of state.
This is just one more thing on a long list of seemingly corrupt things that's going on in LA. It's a state of emergency. There's livelihoods, lives, animals' lives, total devastation going on, and they're worried about checks of fire trucks. How are they getting away with it? How are they getting away with it? I seen that woman who approached the mayor at the car door, and he's giving his the same old, the robotic speech that the politicians everyone give. The bullet is just like this. They literally make your skin crawl, don't they? Just stop. Literally, if you're in California, I'm not going to say it. Just don't put up with it, is what I'm saying. Don't put up with it anymore. After this is all dust settled, don't let them keep talking about it. Make sure something happens. It's ridiculous. It needs to stop. It just needs to stop.
Does it frustrate anybody else that we're not allowed to talk about what's really going on in our world? We're not allowed to talk about what's actually unfolding behind closed doors. We can't talk about Maui. We can't talk about North Carolina, and soon we won't be able to talk about LA. We're not supposed to know about the flood insurance that was canceled before North Carolina, and we're not supposed to know about the fire insurance that was canceled before LA. We can't talk about the color blue, and we definitely can't talk about the cities that are coming. We are not allowed to talk about what is really going on in our world. We can't talk about the shipping containers. We can't talk about why celebrities always look so young. We can't talk about what happens in the tunnels, and we definitely can't talk about what happens every single day beneath our feet. We can't talk about what is really going on in our world. Our world is not as it seems. Everybody that you see, that you look up to, our politicians, our celebrities, Hollywood, is not as it seems. Evil is running this world, and it is soon coming to a head, and Satan will step out onto center stage. The beast system is getting set up right in front of our eyes, and we are not allowed to talk about it.
Exactly what I'm talking about. Maui. Look at the devastation there. You never hear what happened there. You never hear about anyone talking now, because on to the next thing, which is, I think North Carolina came next. Look what's happening there. Not happened, happening. These are lives, that people's livelihood, everything just being uprooted, and they've got to change schools, change friends, change families, and people, they're losing people, the houses, the home, memories, everything. And they expect it to just, the rat race continues. It doesn't work like that. Real human emotion. Sick, twisted individuals, yeah. Do not stop talking about anything, never. And bring the other ones back up for Maui, for North Carolina, and raise awareness for them also. Don't let them move on to the next project. And if you're working for if you work for these people, these pilots, and who are involved in all this secret black, probably because they've got no kids or no lives, and they get a good pension and paid well, and do you know what I mean? It's just, is it really worth it? Your morals? Anyway, each to their own. Stick together. Stay safe.
Yeah, I used to have a Qigong master. This is what kind of blows my mind about medicine and about ancient stuff. This guy was from Shanghai. He didn't speak much English, right? A little bit. His wife would translate for him. And he'd come in and he could like point at you, right, from this far away, and you'd feel it. But like, feel it like to the, as palpable as someone pushing you around. It's like, whoa, whoa.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not kidding. Like,
What year was this when this is happening?
I mean, if he can use his mind and kind of get into quantum physics and move shit around with thought and with energy, there's actual energy coming out of his fingers. They could have built the pyramids like that. I don't know. Maybe somebody had that down somewhere. But
Well, I'd like to hear a better explanation.
me too. Well, it was really weird. One time he was working on me, and he was working on my liver. He said, "Your liver's blocked," because he looks at you, and if you look at him, he looks away, and his wife engages you while he checks you out, and then he gives you a little body map, and he puts X's all over it, and you go, "Yeah, that's right. I got a pain here and a thing there," and he knows where everything is. He knows exactly what's going on.
Did you ask him what is he seeing your aura?
See, I put this clip in of Mel Gibson because I think he's an interesting guy. Obviously an amazing director and actor and everything, but years ago, it seemingly got blackballed. I don't know if he did or not, but he just seemingly like fall off, and everyone said he was an alcoholic or something about Jews. I don't know the full story, but whether he's right or wrong, he seems like he don't want to partake in the garbage what goes on in Hollywood. He's been around the block too long. He's seen it all. The reason I put this clip in, bit of positivity. He's been talking about the LA fires on the news and stuff, and I think he's potentially lost his home, he said. But this just seems like a bit of a positive thing to do, like the telekinesis type energy thing, because it's real. I think it's scientifically proven where you got like there's an energy around you and stuff. So it just to change your pace a little bit. Cool guy.
Kristen Megan, she's a military veteran, right?
Yes, I was in the U.S. Air Force for 9 years.
And you came out and blew the whistle on geoengineering, things that you witnessed were going on?
Absolutely. Basically, I had heard of what many people know as the term chemtrails, and I worked in a job called bioenvironmental engineering. I thought that was insane. And why would we do something like that? Modify the weather by using hazardous materials in our atmosphere? And actually, the process of trying to debunk it, I realized it was actually coming right out of my office, as I was one of the people that was approving the chemicals. And it really shook the core of my oath, and I did a lot of sampling, a lot of investigation, and I blew the whistle and I got out. And collectively around the globe, we have to understand that it is now being admitted because they're saying it's combating climate change. Well, the climate change we need to be worried about is man-made climate engineering, also known as geoengineering.
And what kind of chemicals are they putting out that rain down on humanity, basically?
Nanoparticulate metals, like you had different sulfates and barium and strontium. I know they use silver iodide for certain things. The odd part of it was the quantities that I saw them coming in, the form that they were coming in, and it's the same type of materials that I was trying to engineer out of the workplace to substitute with safer materials. And when you notice what's called a safety data sheet, the information about a chemical of what personal protective equipment to wear, how do you dispose of it, how do you pack it to ship it. When key information is missing, I ask questions, and my questions led to demonization, and I knew I found something I shouldn't have.
listen, we've been over chemtrails many a time, and I'm baffled with this one because genuinely until yesterday, I thought chemtrails was the norm. Like everyone knew it happened now. Cloud seeding or geoengineering, same type of thing where they're up there messing about, playing GOD with the weather and you know what I mean. I was on X yesterday and someone jumps on the comments and said about chemtrails not being true, and I was like, wait, there's people that genuinely do not believe it's true. I couldn't believe it. I know everyone has to believe the same thing, I get that, but I was like genuinely shocked, thinking like, everyone knows it's real now, don't they? It's like a thing saying that people still think we went to the moon. Wow, it's stubbornness. It really is stubbornness. I don't know, but again, each to their own. Complicated earth or just words. Everyone deserves their own opinion. Free speech.
Contrails, not the chemicals, the contrails occur because of cold air, minus 30. It takes a high altitude, around 30,000 feet plus. There's carbon dioxide and water vapor in that exhaust. That turns to ice crystals, and that's what you see, the white stream behind it. Those white crystals of ice warm up, dissolve, and the smoke goes away. And it never lasts more than a minute. What we're seeing now, and I first could not believe it, and I started looking at the skies, and these are not normal, they're not natural. There's something going on. I don't know who it is or why they're doing it. All I can testify is it's not natural and it's not normal. It's got to be some outside influence doing that. Thank you.
I'm here to give you testimony that chemtrails, they're not contrails, are indeed real. They're spraying almost every day. I watch the clouds and watch the spraying program going on. I want to tell you that we're in very great danger from the pollution that's coming down over us. And we've been led astray by the military-industrial complex. And they're responsible for the cloud's creation and weather manipulation programs. They're dark operations. That's why they're not out in the media.
I look around and I see people are starting to look up and see them. Many times I've spoken about chemtrails, and I get this blank look on my face. What are you talking about? I'm saying, look up. As a pilot, before I fly, I look up. And so, boy, they're really out there working.
When you look up at the sun and you see a white haze, that is aluminum floating in the air right now.
Straight from the horse's mouth. Don't take my word for it. Do you know what I mean? Obviously there'll be people saying it's just a guy dressing up in a pilot suit like he's Frank Abagnale, whatever he's called, Frank Abagnale. Do you know what I mean? It's just stupid, you can't win. But again, that's the beauty of difference of opinion. And that's what we encourage here. Well. Have we reached this clip? And when I said it was mind-blowing, I wasn't lying. This is very, very interesting. Let's take a look.
The story time I'm about to share with you is in the top 3 most unsettling emails I've received since starting Spooky Scary Storytime. It came from an ecologist who claims that his superior, his boss, was not of the human race. You can skip to this part if you want to start the story right now, but I feel like there's a few disclaimers that I have to get off my chest before I start this story. First off, I'm only going to tell you what he said in the email. I'm not going to inject my own opinion because we listen, we don't judge. Second of all, he does not follow me, but his daughter is a fan of Spooky Scary Storytime, which is how he found me and why he submitted his story. Apparently, she's been following very closely the Diorb bags videos, and she thought that this was relevant somehow to what's going on. The Diorb bags is a whole nother rabbit hole, so go down that if you haven't. But third, this man sent me this email from his real name. He asked me to please keep him anonymous because his career is on the line, which is why he's never told this story publicly. He said he's very well respected in an academic and professional sense. Literally the reason I get the good stories is because I respect people's anonymity. Finally, before I start the story, I'm going to censor certain words because media in general does censor a little bit certain things. So you're going to have to fill in some blanks, but I will try to make them as clear and concise as possible. This man said I could refer to him as Dr. Corbin. He's been an ecologist for the last 20 years. He is extremely well respected. He has published papers. He has contributed to scientific journals. He's a big deal. Sometime in the last 20 years, he was doing a research expedition at Usuni National Park in Ecuador. It is part of the Amazon rainforest, and he said it's extremely unique in that it's one of the most biodiverse places on Earth, and it has extremely unique climatic conditions. To put it simply, he was there to study biodiversity. He said these research expeditions usually last anywhere from a few weeks to a few months, but this specific expedition was 8 weeks, and he was there with a few people that he knew, but it was a relatively large team. One of the guys he's there with, he went to school with to get his PhD, and he knew him relatively well. He said that this man had never said anything about like fringe theories, like he was very scientific minded. He said his entire team was working under the supervision and hand of somebody named Dr. Vola, not her real name. He had never met Dr. Vola, but she communicated with them pretty much just through email, and a few of his bosses that were on site knew her. His friend who he went to school with had also met Dr. Vola on a previous project. So after 2 weeks, when the team was there, Dr. Vola was coming out to the station where they were all staying. And the night before she gets there, Dr. Corbin is asking Dr. Joe, like, what's she like, like what's she like working with? And Dr. Joe just says point blank to him, she's a lizard. Not what he said, but you know what I'm saying. Said there was no sense of like sarcasm, of like joking in his voice. So Dr. Corbin's like, what do you mean she's a lizard? And Dr. Joe is like, yeah, like you'll see when you meet her. Like everyone knows, everyone accepts it, but that's just what she is. Dr. Corbin obviously thinks he's joking and doesn't take him seriously because, again, he had known Dr. Joe since they were in school, and Dr. Joe had never exhibited any like conspiracy theorist tendencies. He had never said anything like that before. So he's like, obviously he's messing with me. Dr. Corbin said at this point in his email that he has experienced a lot of strange things that he can't explain in his work. He's experienced weird animal noises, weird animal behaviors, weird noises in the jungle, weird lights in the sky, but nothing could have prepared him for meeting Dr. Vola. She arrives the next day. He said the first thing he noticed about her was her complexion was one of the things that made her beautiful. He said it was like glass. Like, he didn't know the words then because this was before social media, but he said it was like she was wearing a filter in real life. But he wasn't trying to flirt with her. Obviously, she was his boss. He was actually intimidated by her because not only was she stunning, but she was incredibly smart, and she appeared to be a lot younger than him, even though he was relatively young when this happened. He said that was surprising to him because when she arrived on site, he expected some respected doctor that had been in the field for 20 or 30 years. When she gets there, she basically doesn't interact with anyone, but she gives people certain assignments. And he said the second thing he noticed was her movements. They were almost too smooth, like they were calculated, like she was trying to figure out a way to fit in naturally with other people she was around. The day after she arrives, her and the team venture out into the jungle. They're working on something, and he said he noticed that her skin was weird in the sunlight, like it was almost reflective. But then he thought it was just his mind playing tricks on him. It was so hot, and then he realized she wasn't sweating. So he started paying attention to it the next few days. She never had a bead of sweat anywhere on her. Every night the team ate together. She would always remove herself from the situation. She never ate with the team. She never had a snack. She claimed that she had certain allergy restrictions that prevented her from eating normal food. Not that weird, but what was weird to Dr. Corbin was that she always seemed to be near animals in their final moments. Dr. Corbin said he really didn't recognize it at first because in the rainforest, creatures succumb all the time to predation, illness, or just the elements of the rainforest. But after about a week, her proximity to their final moments became too obvious and too frequent to ignore. In one case, he said they were tracking a giant anteater for a few weeks. It was an elder male, it was scarred, it was majestic, and they had been monitoring its activity for a few weeks. One night, their GPS tracker on the giant anteater stopped tracking. It was later in the afternoon, but it was still light out, so Dr. Corbin and a few of his colleagues went out to find it. And they come to it, and they see Dr. Vola crouched over it. Her face is almost touching it, but when she saw them, she stood up and straightened herself. She muttered something about checking for signs of it being attacked by a predator, but the team took samples and they concluded that it had passed from natural causes. But what struck Dr. Corbin was Dr. Vola's behavior later that night. She seemed energized. She seemed like she was invigorated by something. He said when they returned to the base, her movements were sharper and quicker, like she had just had a surge of adrenaline. It wasn't just the anteater. After that, he noticed if something was dying, she was there. It was birds, frogs, small mammals, and every time she seemed to have a surge of energy afterward, like she fed off of it. He said obviously he has no way to prove it, but he felt like she was feeding off of something, their life force, their distress. He said over the next few weeks, Dr. Vola spoke very little, but when she did, she seemed to reveal information that she couldn't have possibly known. The results of experiments before they had concluded, the location of animals before they looked at the tracker. One evening, he decides he's going to joke with her. He's like, Dr. Vola, you are psychic, or you have a satellite feed in your brain. He said that her reaction stunned him. She stopped what she was doing, stared him dead in the eyes, unblinking, and said, Dr. Corbin, jokes are dangerous, and you don't want to ask questions with answers that you can't live with. He laughed nervously, but she just turned and walked away, and later that night she approached him when he was alone. She asked him if he knows how fragile humans are and how easily they can fall apart. Then she tells him that the jungle respects strength, not fragility, and honesty, not jokes. Dr. Corbin said his breaking point on this project came a few weeks later. He was watching the night trail cams and he spotted something odd in the trees. It was about human size, but it moved like a reptile. It had reflective eyes and it moved with a speed unbeknownst to him. He said at this point in his career he was very familiar with most of the species that lived in the rainforest and he had no idea what this was. The timestamp the video showed was during one of Dr. Vola's solo patrols. The next morning he confronts her and he tells her basically like, I think the light or the camera messed up because like, look at what I found. And she watches the footage and she looks at him and she says, delete it. And he was like, I don't know what it is. Like, look at the elongated neck. I think we should study this. Like, we should try to find whatever this is. And she leans in closer and she says, delete it. He tells her he would, but he didn't. And then later that day when he checked his laptop, the footage was gone. A few weeks later, the project concluded and he went home. He's back in the US now and he has not worked with Dr. Vola since, but he said he believes that some things walk among us that are not human, even if they appear to be. I'm genuinely curious your thoughts on this. Please let me know what you think, if you know what this was, if you believe that she really was a lizard, or if you think he's full of it. Dr. Corbin, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really enjoyed this story, even though it is unsettling to me, because I always am impressed or taken aback whenever I receive a story that's from someone who is from a walk of life that I would never experience. Everybody else keep sending me your spooky, weird, things you think that no one would believe stories, and I will keep adding them to this playlist.
I've already told you what I think. Now you let me know what you think in the comments. Do you believe him or not? I just don't see a reason for him to lie. Like, why would you come out the blue and share a story? Like, what for? What do you get out of that? Just let me know in the comments. I do appreciate his being here, genuinely. If you're still watching this video at this point, I honestly appreciate the support. But the algorithm, you need to watch 2 back-to-back, YouTube says, not me, YouTube. And if you can be bothered, just hit the like button. Thank you. And I'll see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.